Hi, I'm Steve Lentini, and I'm your host for the podcast Different Thinking for Different Times. And this is season 5, episode 30. I don't have a guest today. I do have more guests lined up for the end of the year, but I wanted to tell you a little bit about what my focus is, what I hope to achieve, why I'm doing this. The why is so important in life, and what I think people could get out of it, and it's up to them. They have to want to overcome this small-minded thinker in their head, that insidious little voice that I have. And when I ask others, I'm grateful other people raise their hands when I ask, by a show of hands, who's got this insidious little voice talking to them, sometimes 24 hours a day. It might even be the cause of an unrestful night of sleep. And what I'm doing with this podcast is a couple things. One is I share my experience from my near-death moment, my near-death experience, my NDE, on November 18th, 2002, 5 days after I entered intensive care on November 13th. What I learned on the other side is, number one, there is more after life. I was watching a TV show the other day that Billy Crystal's in, and he plays a psychologist that's telling people there's nothing after this. That's it. The end. Get over it. I sure hope he doesn't believe that. And I can tell you from my own experience that there is a what's next. I was in intensive care on November 13th. 5 days later, I flatlined, and I was on the other side. And I can tell you my experience only. So there was immense light, right? 1 second, 2 friends at the end of my bed visiting me in intensive care at the Waltham Hospital in Waltham, Massachusetts. And the next second, I'm one with everything and nothing. Immense light, immense love, but not the kind of love we understand with this little brain, the acorn brain, I call it. That small-minded little thinker of mine was blown away because none of this thinking went with me. Immediately, I knew how much I was loved by the Creator, God, the Goddess, the Divine, the Abraham, the Christ consciousness, the Muhammad, the Buddha, all the Hindu gods. They're all one in that existence, by the way, at least in my experience. And when we say we are all loved, or when it's been said in most of the world's religions that we're all loved, we don't get it, because here we continue to struggle, make others wrong, disagree, and even get violent and angry with people who don't agree with us. That's small-minded thinking. And that's why I call this different thinking for different times, to help people overcome small-minded thinking and mirror the infinite God, the Goddess, the Muhammad, the Christ, the Abraham, whatever you call it, the Buddha, the Brahma. Do you think the creative life force that created an infinite universe that we don't understand to this day, I mean, we think we're getting better at it, but all our new telescopes and observatories are discovering new things every day that continue to baffle physicists. We live in something infinite, and yet here, when we're born, probably because of family influence, some of it is DNA. By the way, DNA is the only time the past is with us, because it's carried forward through generations. I can tell you, there is no past or future in what's next, which is what I call death. I don't call it death. And interestingly, I was never afraid of death. Never. I was more interested in living and finding my true path, which that day brought me my true path, to help people learn to expand their thinking into unlimited thinking, like the unlimited or limitless universe we live in. We are basically, I have a marble next to me. The reason I use this is the world painted on a marble. I want you to get that, right? And this is probably larger in relation to the size of the universe than what we live on. This is larger. Physicists have said probably in relation to the size of the universe, we're a grain of sand. And we take it for granted. We're living in a miracle. And then we let people bother us because we think we're right. We get angry. In fact, all wars have been created by small-minded thinking, even those today. They're over religious differences or differences in land or differences in governing. And our leaders are truly small-minded, especially those like Putin or some of the others in the Middle East that caused unrest because they're different. They don't like the way things are. There are different ways to resolve differences. Putin's grabbing for land, but he'll die and take none of it with him someday. I'm not wishing that on him. But he'll learn, I think so, like I did, how small-minded he is. And most of the world leaders are. I mean, our leaders, the two-party system has failed us because it's all about pointing fingers and not taking accountability and wanting to be right, the party that's right. In this country, I happen to think we need more parties. We probably need as many parties as baseball teams to make it work better, so that there'd have to be dialogue to come to a compromise to run the government. That's what we need. That's what we need. But what we need is individually to begin making that shift from small-minded thinking where we make others wrong and we want to be right. I mean, I see people wanting to be right in the supermarket, in traffic, let alone in politics or in the news, people railing against people who lead companies. What we need is a dialogue, as witnessed by the CEO that got murdered. We need a dialogue. Killing people won't resolve anything. I mean, what did the world wars prove? Killing people didn't do anything. And, citizens could refuse to go to war. I think this would be funny. Leaders that want to battle another country, just have the two leaders battle it out, or maybe they designate two strong fighters to go represent each country. And if those fighters are willing, whoever wins, that's the battle. It's it. It's over. Let's think out of the box. But in general, what I want people to realize is the infinite, the creator of an infinite universe. And by the way, physicists have even suggested there could be limitless universes on top of limitless universes all happening at once. I mean, just think about how mind-blowing that is. But let's just stay with the one universe, because our mind likes definition. We like things defined. That's why we call it a universe. It helps our little mind picture it in a box. What I learned was we are loved beyond measure, beyond what we can even comprehend. And as a result of that experience, my goal today is to love one person as much as I felt loved that day, November 18th. And if we all experienced what's next, or as some people call it, death, not before this podcast is over, I wish you all a long life, we wouldn't be so small-minded and petty. We'd be more concerned when people were upset with us. Well, why do you feel that way? Was it something I did? What do I need to learn from this? How can I help you feel better? How can I fix this? We don't want to take any responsibility for anything. The next thing I learned, so it was immense light, immense love, and a knowing that I was one with everything and nothing at the same time. The next was a life review, and only the good I had done flashed before me. That frosts many people because they're more concerned with sin and being perfect in this world. No one's perfect. We're here to sin or fall, get up, learn, grow. Fall, get up, learn from it, and grow. That's why existence was created for us, this temporary physical existence. And everything that I thought had value on that day, right? My titles, what I owned, books I'd written, all these other things that I thought would make me something special, money, cars, houses, etc. None of that went with me. And it taught me to live from the inside out, to be happy, not to live in the question of, I'll be satisfied when. Get that? That's a question. I'll be satisfied when. No, that'll come, that'll go. And that happens in life. Things come, things go. We can just observe and be grateful and embrace our life as it is. I have a new book published yesterday and today, the paperback version today, the Kindle version yesterday, hardcover probably tomorrow, if not today. In Plain Sight, learn to see what most people miss and embrace life as it is. It's available on Amazon. Just Google Steve Lentini on Amazon, books by Steve Lentini. You'll see them all. I can tell you that when we embrace life as a friend, that life is a gift, and learn to just observe what comes and goes, we start to take the perspective that everything's a gift. Everything comes to teach us something. And then only the good I had done in my life review, I was surrounded by family and friends who had passed and loved ones. It was a knowing they were there. And then even people I bought a sandwich for or helped in any way, helped with groceries, helped carry something, helped hold the door. Just anybody I had helped pick up something they had dropped in the supermarket. People I smiled at. I had no idea how many lives I had touched. The good we do makes a difference. And that as we start to expand our small-minded thinking from judging everybody and everything is either right or wrong or good or bad, as we get over that, we work to become the observer. Maybe good, maybe bad, who knows? That's the old Sufi tale. Google it. In the 1600s, when I did research for my book, Sage Advice, that includes 62 sages, including myself, some living, but most dead, some for thousands of years, the wisdom contained in the book, in the research that I found, that people had, the quotes that they were, that were attributed to people, sometimes, like I said, thousands of years ago, it was amazing advice. It seems to me like some of them had experienced what I had experienced, like Christ, St. Paul saying in the Bible that everything works together for good for those that love their God. Paraphrasing, Muhammad said, what reaches you was never meant to miss you, and what misses you was never meant to reach you. But I have quotes from lots of people in that book. And one in particular that I researched was the God of Spinoza, Baruch Spinoza. When I researched Albert Einstein, when people would ask him what his view was of God, he answered it two ways. One is the superior reasoning power that created this unimaginable universe forms my idea of God. The other way he would answer either students or journalists when they asked him, what do you think of the idea of God? And he said, read the God of Spinoza. In the 1600s, he wrote that. He ended up being shunned by his community because he wrote it, because it didn't talk about sin. It talked about living in this miracle that God gifted us with, appreciating all of the Creator's creations. If you think your one religion is right and you're making everyone around you wrong, or you want to convince everybody to give up theirs and go with yours, you're wasting your breath. It's not what I experienced. Christ was purported to have said, in my Father's house there are many rooms. Yeah, for all his creations, or her creations, because there was no sex. There was no male, no female, no religion. No one was at the gate saying, what sex are you, Steve? Or what's your preference? It doesn't matter. We're here to live. Follow our heart. Be authentic. Speak up about things that are wrong. Do something about things that you feel passionate about. Like Rosa Parks. What if she had never decided to sit in the front of the bus? Or Martin Luther King. What if he just said, no, that's too much. Oh, no. Equal rights. No, I could never do that. Or Mahatma Gandhi. Oh, well, the British are okay. Let's let them lead here. In India. Or Mother Teresa. These poor people, they can help themselves. Just think about how crazy it is and small-minded to just want to rail against something, or worse, kill somebody because you disagree. Go do something. Do something. Do good. Make a difference by changing the world. How do you feel when you do good? It made sense to me. And by the way, There was no past or future. I could not connect the events together until I was back in my body in intensive care. And I'll tell you in a moment how that happened. It was only the now. See, and in the now, God is never absent. Whatever you call that. It could be, as Joe Dispenza says, the quantum field, where physicists are finding how all the molecules that make us all up and everything in the universe, everything, every microbe, everything we can't see, every tiny little thing and every huge thing. Lisa Randall, by the way, the physicist, says, if there are things so tiny we can't see them, some we can't even see with a microscope. Maybe we can now. I'm not a scientist. But she said, why couldn't it be that there are things so large that we can't see them? You see, humans are so egoic. We prefer to be right, and we forget how that makes all those around us wrong. Why aren't we curious? What are you afraid that if you, with an open mind, your brain will fall out? As far as I know, it won't. Have a sense of humor about your mistakes. When I think about my mistakes, because back in my body, they came back, but there was no mention of them on the other side. But this little brain wants to bring them up. Even sometimes I'm driving down the road and all of a sudden something will occur that I did in the 4th grade or the 1st grade or 10 years ago or last week, because I'm not perfect. I think to myself today, well, seemed like a good idea at the time, and I chuckle because I remember how loved I am. You don't have to love me for saying this. I don't care anymore. I know I'm loved. And that because in the infinite, when I was one with everything and nothing, I felt like a drop of water in the ocean, a drop in the infinite, but I was one with it and immensely loved, but it's not, words are not doing that justice. It's very hard to describe it to you, but I can tell you there was only the now, which tells me, and what I learned was that the divine, the God, the goddess, the Brahma, the Buddha, the Abraham, the Muhammad, the Christ consciousness, whatever you call it, is never separate from us. It's we who separate ourselves from it. If you're on a search for God, stop and think. Just be in the moment and start to appreciate all the wondrous things around you. Take a moment like this and just look around. God is with you. Go for a walk in nature and see for a fact the amazing things that something created. I don't care what you call it. How could it be absent? If it was like a human and took its attention off us, thank God it's not, we'd be gone. We'd be gone. We forget. This was created for us. It was created with a purpose, and it expands as we do. It's experiencing through us. People want to make modern times wrong and go back to 2,000 years ago, but that's not the wisdom that's needed today. You can see where human consciousness seeps into all the glorious writings, all the glorious books. When there's mention of vengeance and anger and I'm going to get even and vengeance is mine, that's small-minded. Anything that sounds small-minded is not where I was. I did not experience that. Now, I'm not trying to convince you. You can keep your small little life, as Benjamin Franklin said. People all wrapped up into themselves make a very small bundle. That's okay. That's one way to live. Some people live what I call a white knuckle ride. They're hanging on so tightly. They never enjoy life. E. Cummings said, if you want to find freedom, relax your grip and dive into the space. Joseph Campbell said, if to find the treasure that you seek, enter the cave you fear the most. Go where it's uncomfortable. Go where you fear. Stretch yourself. Get over this little brain. Don't listen to that brain. Rainer Maria Rilke in the 1800s called it the little hooligan when he talked about that voice. He said, I call that voice the little hooligan. Will you let the little hooligan run you, or will you run it? George Ivanovich Gurdjieff called it the machine and asked the same question. Will you let the machine run you, or will you run it? And it takes developing an observer level, a level of thinking above your thinking where you don't judge anything. You don't judge anyone. Everyone else's journey is none of my business today. And my journey is none of your business or anyone else's. And I love that. I didn't always think that way. And I was 50 when that occurred, by the way. November 18th, 2002. I realized later on in my intensive care bed, when I was back in my body, that I had not surrendered fully like that until after the life review, I was asked a question. And this is not the voice that asked it, but it was a infinite voice, a loving voice. Very simple question. Stay or go? Not in an angry way. Stay or go? Let's say it that way. It doesn't do it justice, by the way. No words do. No words give justice to what's next. Can't even explain it. I'm doing the best I can. Everything was so vibrant and alive in a different way, in a knowing, one with consciousness. And when I was asked that question, stay or go, my consciousness, you don't have a body and you don't have this little acorn brain. You don't have a voice to answer it. No, I don't want to die. No. Oh my God. You don't have that. I'm one, at least I didn't. I was one with the consciousness, and my consciousness responded with, thy will be done. Didn't matter if I stayed there or came back here. Either way. And I was right back in intensive care. I couldn't even share it or speak. I don't know for how long it was, probably a couple hours, but eventually those same two friends, by the way, were at the end of my bed when I came back to my body. I said, something happened. And they said, oh yeah, you flatlined. Your alarms were going off in intensive care, and the doctors and nurses came rushing in and said, out, this is it, call his family. And they did. They went out to the waiting room. Sometime later, nurse came out from intensive care and said, he's stable for now. You can sit with him again. What I learned is the following. Our thinking, our egoic thinking is so small-minded, and that we're here to learn and grow and to expand human consciousness and expand this wondrous life and make it more enjoyable. Not wrong. Don't make it wrong. Make it more enjoyable. Find ways to help others and do good. I don't care if it's picking up trash instead of complaining about it. You make a walk. I take a walk around here. I live in a beautiful area near the ocean, and there's some beautiful parks. And I pick up trash when I see it, because years ago I would have been complaining about it. Don't these sloppy people know? Couldn't they walk 50 feet and put it in a trash container? In the past in Brooklyn, I took trash bags out in the street with latex gloves on and picked up trash. I'm developing a website, 24hourgoodnews.com. If you see people doing good things, take a video of it or a picture and send it to me. Or if you have a story, send it to me. My email is steve@stevelentini.com. I'm going to start posting some of these things on 24. The website's under construction. You can go looking for it, but it'll say it's parked. I'm going to start recording things when I see people do good, because that's what we're here to do. We're honoring what created the universe. Now, the beauty is we have free will. So we can be angry, make mistakes, start wars, start arguments, start drama because we want to be right. It's a waste of energy. It's like railing against people on social media. It's dumb. You're not going to change their minds, and you're only wasting your own time and making yourself more upset for no reason. What awaits us is amazing. But you have to take my word for it, and unless you do get a sample of what's next. Like I said, hopefully not before the podcast ends. Start to question your own thinking and work to expand your own thinking. One person at a time. One person starts to expand their consciousness. Every time that little brain wants you to react, judge someone, get angry in traffic, at the supermarket, at a customer service person on the phone, breathe, relax, say, wait a minute. This reached me, must be meant for me. Everything works together for good. What's the good in this? What's the lesson? Embrace life as a friend. And remember, whatever you call God, it's never absent. It's with you. He's with you. She's with you. Whatever you call it, it's with you. It's not absent. You're missing it. You've removed yourself from it. If you're on a search for God, it's because you're missing what's here. The beauty and the gift of what's here now. And probably you're unhappy with your life, but you created it. You created it. And with that same thinking that created the mess in your life, the good news is that's the same power that can create anything you want by just observing and embracing life as a friend. I have two new books. One is called No BS Coaching. No BS Coaching. Wake up from the BS you tell yourself. And once you start to catch these little stories where you're making others wrong, could be your boss, the company, somebody did something to you, a coworker, a neighbor, a family member. You could be still blaming your parents for your life and they're long dead. What a waste. They gave you a gift. That's the thing to do, is however they were, made you different in some way. That's the gift, but you got to find it, not me. I found the gift. I'm still working on some, by the way, because I'm human. Then I wrote How to Train Your Mind, written by a dragon, Program Your Mind for Success. And these two are like a series. Get them both if you want. If you want some of my ideas that are in writing. I wrote Written by a Dragon because I'm born in the year of the dragon in Chinese astrology. You can program your mind. In fact, that's our job, is to do good. When you want to react and be angry and vengeful and not forgive, and all of that is small-minded, that's God actually urging you, knocking on your door. Call it life. Life itself is knocking on your door to wake you up to something new. That's why it bothers you so much. Google the mirror principle. You'll learn something about how the people that show up in your life are actually there, especially the ones that bother you and bug you the most, or situations. They're there to teach you something. Wayne Dyer, for example, used to use that, talk about the mirror principle. And here's what he said about that. Maybe you'll get it. When you squeeze an orange, you get orange juice. When we get squeezed, we get what we need to work on. I hope that bothers you somewhat. I hope this podcast bugs you, because it shows you how small-minded your thinking is and that that's the work to do. Now, it's holiday season. I wish you all, whatever your holiday is that you celebrate, it could be Merry Christmas, it could be Hanukkah, it could be Kwanzaa, it could be Festivus for the rest of us. Whatever your holiday is, I wish you a blessed holiday and a blessed new year and a year of growth, overcoming this small-minded thinker. And I can tell you, the basis of all my coaching and training, it begins with a spiritual understanding of something larger than ourselves. So large, in fact, that we can't see it, and we think we're right. That's the place I start all the work on. And that's my job to do. I thought I was going to be a priest until I was 17 and met Sophie. Then I knew I couldn't be a Catholic priest, but it also, the gift was it put me on a search. Well, if not a priest, then what? And it took until 50 to figure that out. And life woke me up. That was the gift. Life gave me a whack with a 2x4. 1 second fine, the next second needing an ambulance. No symptoms, never had any symptoms. I survived 2 major health challenges in 5 days: acute necrotizing pancreatitis, followed by 5 days later, an anterior myocardial infarction. And today, I have no symptoms. 21 and a half years. No, 22 years. What am I saying? November 18th is my new birthday. I'm 22. How do I look? I can tell you, this life is a miracle, but you have to prove that to yourself. And it begins with questioning all the places you get bothered and bugged and angry. Anything small-minded was not created by the creator of a limitless universe that we still don't understand. But you have to prove that to yourself. Take me up on it. You want to be a guest on the podcast and challenge me? That's fine. I've had lots of guests this year, but guests that are stretching people's thinking. I had guests talk about Compassion Vista, Ali Horvat, look him up. I had guests that talked about overcoming addictions and depression and sadness and PTSD. They talked about using, 2 guests that talked about using psychedelics. I had guests that talked about having a dialogue. Robert Staines, he talks about helping people overcome some very difficult conflicts, whether it's in companies or churches or organizations or even families or family-owned businesses. By the way, Essential Partners is something that you Google, essentialpartners.org, and work with essentialpartners.org, where you get some information about how to have dialogues. He works with helping people become dialogue facilitators. A monologue is the story one tells oneself, and that's where we get stuck. That's where Mahatma Gandhi could have got stuck. Nah, the British are okay. Or Martin Luther King. Equal rights, man, that's going to cause a lot of people problems. Civil rights going to cause a lot of people problems. Nah, I'll skip it. Rosa Parks, I'll just take their last seat on the bus. Mother Teresa, the poor people got to fix themselves. Think about that. They could have chosen small-minded thinking. I have it. I have to work on it every day. I'm not saying I found the way. I tell my clients, if I ever say I found the way, run away. Never follow anyone or anything blindly. It's up to you. It'll make a difference in your life. I have a quote that says, if you don't like your experience of the world, change how the world is experiencing you. You're the only one that has power to change things. You start by changing yourself and how you view things. Again, here, I'll tell you how to reach me, Steve at stevelentini.com. Here's how to spell it. Steve, right here, Steve at Steve Lentini. It's easy. By the way, anybody that views this to the end, I'm glad to give you a free coaching. I'm not going to try to sell you coaching. Listen, I coach a lot of people, have helped them overcome small-minded thinking. I'm not going to try to sell you anything. If you want coaching, fine. I'm going to give you free coaching that will help you. And that's it. If you want coaching, you'll tell me. I'm not going to try to sell it to you. Look up my books on Amazon. Got a lot of different ideas. That's my mission in life, helping people overcome small-minded thinking. I wish you a happy holiday season and a blessed holiday season. Whatever you call God is never absent, always with you, especially in the deepest and darkest times. I mean, after all, that's when I found my calling. Maybe yours is in those times right now. Thank you very much for attending and listening. I'm grateful.